Joins are basically used to combine two rows from one or more different tables, or even you can say two or more different tables if you don't consider the self join. So there are various types of the join statements. As I mentioned, self join, cross join, left join, or simply left outer join, right join, or simply sometimes called right outer join, inner join, outer join, or full outer join. A self join is a type of the join that is used to compare rows within the same table. And the cross join is a type of join where rows from the first table is matched with every row in the second table. Left join is a type of the join where all the elements from the table 1 as shown in the diagram is present, whereas the inner join is the join where the common elements from table 1 and table 2 will be present, and the common elements is selected based on the condition given in the join on the on statement. The right join has all the elements from the table 2 and also the common elements from table 1 and table 2. The full outer join has elements from table 1 and table 2 as well. So in terms of uses, the joins are basically used to combine data from multiple sources, and also they are used to filter data, get relevant data. Also, we can use joins with the filter statements where clause to filter the data to get the relevant data. Also, with the self join, we can deal with the hierarchical data where one row in the same table is dependent upon the other row in the same table. So let's discuss about the syntax. So in terms of the syntax, the join clause is used to denote the join statement. So we have select columns from table 1 or table name, and the join type we want to do, the left join, right join, or the inner join, and so on. And then join table 2 and on condition. So on condition basically contains the common columns in both the tables, and it matches based on those common columns. So let's look at the one example of checking on player names along with their parents' name using a self join. So in our data preparation example, we created a tournament participant tables, and in those tables we had the players' names and also their ID, and also the parents were included in the same table. So in this example, we'll combine the players and the parents and giving from the same tournament participant table on our parent ID and participant ID. So we basically select players dot participant ID as player ID, players dot participant name as player name, players dot is player as player or not, parents dot participant name as parent name, parents dot participant ID as parent ID, parents dot is player or as parent and player or not, from tournament participants player, and join tournament participant parents. We're going to give the name as player and participant for the two different representations, and on players.parent ID equals to parents.participant ID. So let's move ahead and look at another example of cross join, which is basically combining the cross join between the customer table and the product table. In this example, we'll do select customer ID, concatenate with the first name and the last name as full name, product ID, name as the product name, and the category name from customer, cross join product. One thing to note here is we don't have the on statement here because the cross join by its nature combines each row in the customer table with each row in the product table. And the number of the results will be if there are n number of elements in customer table and m number of elements in the product table, n into m. So likewise, let's look at the inner left, right, outer joins between the customer and the orders table. Likewise, we can use the select customer.customer ID and concatenate the first name and last name as full name, product ID, order ID, item order count from customer, and we will do inner join. So in this case, we are using an inner join on orders, and on condition would be customer.customer ID equals to orders.order ID. So if you want to do a left join, we will use in place of the inner left, and if you want to do right join, we'll use in place of inner right. So let's move ahead and see this in hands-on, and let's open up our PZ admin for our exercise. Let's see a player has their parent or not using a self join. So let's do select, and we will be doing a self join on the tournament participants. So I will add these columns later on. So from your plugins. So we're gonna call this as players, and join. We're gonna have TUR name into tournament. So participants, parents, and on players dot parent ID equals to into parents dot participant underscore ID. If you look into the tournament participant table over here, so we have a participant ID, participant name, parent ID, and is player or not. And then we're gonna select as players dot into participant ID. This will be player ID and player dot participant name as player name players dot is underscore player as player or not, individual player or not, and then parent, we have parents dot participant ID as PR and parent ID, and then PR and parents dot PRTSCP and participant underscore name as parent name, and then we have PR and as parents dot is player as PR into parent player or not. Let's go ahead and run this command over here. So let's select this and run. Okay, the application has lost database connection. Okay, let's reconnect it. And sure enough, we see a player ID over here, a player name over here, and there is a player or not. Is he a player or not? So all the players will be here and their corresponding parents. And parents ID starting from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So 16 and 17 are not here because they are here. And all the other parents are not a player. So this is a false. Yeah. So let's move on to our, this was an example for self-join. Let's move, because we are joining on the same table here, tournament participant and tournament participant. And let's move ahead with an example of the cross join, where we will have a cross join between a customer and a product. So we'll get their customer ID, a full name, parent product ID, product name, and category name. So let's see it. Select. Yes. So we're gonna do a cross for the cross join. Will come from CUSTM customer. And we will do cross join with PRO DUCT product. We don't need the on student because by default the cross join does joining from each row in table 1 to each row in table 2. So still in this case customer and the product, customer ID, and we wanna use the full name, so we'll use first name and last name, and we have to use a concat function to basically concatenate the first name and the last name, comma, and we're going to give a space, comma, last name, and we're going to give this as full name, and then we have product ID, name, and CAT is your category name. All right, so this should give us all the items in customer multiplied with all the items in the product. Let's go ahead and see. Sure, here we have 150 total rows, 150 total rows, and so we can see that the first row has customer ID, full name, and product. And the product name, the category of the product, to check if we have the same amount of number or not, we can also do count of the customer and the product itself. So if we see select here and count all from STL customer, CSTL customer count, we can also not give a name. So we see that how many rows are there for the customers. So we see there are 15, and likewise if we do for the product, let's copy this and see for the product. Use the product table count. Let's select this just to run this SQL statement, and 10. And sure enough, 15 into 10 is 150, which is given by our cross join output. Now let's move ahead with the third example with the inner left right joins, and we will be using the joins between the customer and the orders table on customer ID, which is present on both the customer and the orders table. So let's do select, and we'll add the columns afterwards. Let me make some space from customer, and then first we'll do inner join orders, and on CSTR customer dot CS customer ID equals to orders dot CSTR customer ID. You can also give this table name as an alias like T1 and T2, and then you can use those names over here. Let's add the columns. So we'll have customer ID, full name, product ID, order ID, and item order count. So from the because the customer ID is present in both the table, we have to specify which table we are taking the customer ID. So we'll say CSTMR customer dot customer ID. Let's look at the customer columns over here, and then we have customer ID, first name, last name, and email. Whereas the orders table over here, we have order ID, order ID, product customer ID, product ID, item order count. CAD concat, and then first name, comma, last name as full name, state product ID, order ID, and item or ordered CUND count from customer. Okay, so let's go ahead and select this and run it. And sure enough, we are getting the common element in the customer and the orders table. Since this is inner join, customer 1 has brought product 1 with an order ID of 1, and item order count where item he bought were 1. So likewise, the order James Smith bought product 2 as well, and the item order count for this one were 3, and the order ID was 2, and so on. Likewise, if we do left join, we'll just write in place of the inner, we just write left join. So in this case, we'll have all the items from the customer table, and since it was 15 number of rows, so we would probably have 15 number of rows in our values, or 16, 15 or 16. Yeah. All the items of the customer table will be there, and those which doesn't match with the order tables will be null. So let's go ahead and see. It seems like the customer table has the multiple items. Okay, and then we have 19, and then we can see that the orders table have null values as well, the items from the orders table. So let's look at the content from the customer table. So let's select all from customer, Okay, so we have 15, 1 through 15. And let's look at the items in the orders table. Orders table. So we have 16 items. Okay. Okay. So in the orders table, we can see that customer ID with a 1 has bought multiple items. So it will have two of the row from the same customer ID, which is 1. And likewise for 3 as well. And there are some repeating numbers. That's why we are getting 19. So we are all good. So likewise, if we go for, let's say, right join, so we should have all the items from the orders table, and we'll just rename this left as right, and then we'll do our join. Okay, sure enough, we see all the items in the orders table, which was 16, and then all the customer ID as well. Since each customer ordered the order item, we don't see null value in the customer columns. So for the outer join, I think we can just do outer, full outer. I think full outer, and then we should be able to see all the items, which is 19 over here. And sure enough, some of the customers, we don't have the some of the values, so we see this. Okay, so this was an example demonstration of the joins, and now in the next section we'll be looking at views.